Well, little noticed filing in D.C. District Court. Well, we noticed it, but it may have exposed a massive money laundering operation by the 2016 Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democratic Party. Federal law, as you know, restricts how much individuals can give to a presidential campaign, but filings with the FEC suggest that Democrats may have evaded the limits, gone around them, by directing donors to state-level Democratic parties that then directly funneled the cash to the Clinton campaign. If that's true, it's a problem. Cleta Mitchell is an attorney. She's an expert on campaign finance law, and she joins us tonight. So, Cleta, tell us, if this is true, is it a crime?
Yes, it's true, and yes, it is a crime. I mean, essentially what they did was they took a perfectly legal apparatus, which is a joint fundraising committee, in this case called the Hillary Victory Committee, and participating in that were the DNC, the Hillary Clinton campaign, and 38 state parties. And, But what they did that was wrong is that they used the higher limits of the DNC and all these state party committees to be able to funnel money back through the DNC, which was controlled by the Hillary Clinton campaign. You know, you and I talked about this last fall, November, December, something like that. And what has happened since then is that the Committee to Defend the President, which is a hybrid PAC, their lawyer, Dan Backer, went to the records of the FEC and looked at all the reports the DNC had filed, looked at all the reports that the Hillary Clinton campaign had filed and this Hillary Victory Committee had filed, and all of these state parties. And what they have discovered by going through all these documents that are all public records, mind you, nothing that the New York Times or the Washington Post couldn't get. And they have documented in a complaint to the FEC with pages and pages of spreadsheets showing the transactions. And let me just give you a couple of examples. What they would do was they would get, say a donor would write a check for $400,000, which was to be split and allocated among the state parties, the Clinton campaign at $5,400, that was the max that she could get, and the money to the DNC. But what would happen, the donation may have been legal, but what they did with the money is what was illegal, which is that they pretended to send it to the state Democratic parties, and they didn't. In some cases, there were never any transfers made to the state parties, and the state party reports show that they never got the money. Instead, that money all went to Brooklyn. Remember, we talked about this earlier. The DNC bank account was moved from Washington, where it had been for decades, and moved to the same bank in New York that the Hillary Clinton campaign where it had its bank accounts. And remember also, so all this money that's supposed to go out to the state parties never went to the state parties. It went to the DNC account in New York, which Hillary Clinton's campaign controlled. That is the part that gets to be illegal. And remember this is a wrinkle I don't know that we would have paid that much attention to last fall, but the person who negotiated this agreement between the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign was Mark Elias, the lawyer for the Hillary Clinton campaign, who negotiated with Mark Elias, who is the lawyer for the Democratic National Committee. I mean, this is
pretty brazen.
It's a really brazen scheme, and it's all in the public record.
And
what
the
has
irony,
happened
of course,
is
they lost anyway. They spent twice as much as the Trump campaign.
Oh, but of course they've sued Russia. The DNC has sued Russia because it was their fault.
It's irony that makes life bearable. Thank you, Cleta Mitchell. Thank you for that explanation. Really interesting and kind of appalling.
Thank you,
really.
Tucker.
There was coordination between Loretta Lynch's DOJ and the FBI. How do you know?
Well, I mean, we know because we have a number of documents, a growing body of evidence, Brian, that now would suggest that Director Comey, who under sworn testimony a number of times have said there was no coordination between Loretta Lynch's DOJ and our FBI investigation. Not only was that false, but we know that over and over again now we have emails that would suggest that that testimony testimony was false and at best misled the American public, at worst was lying to Congress. And here we are today with emails, text messages that says that even the no coordination message that Director Comey put out on that infamous day in July was actually suggested by the Department of Justice.
Here's the text. Timing looks like hell, Peter Strzok says to Lisa Page, will appear choreographed. All major news networks literally leading with the AG to accept the FBI director's recommendation. Yeah, this is awful. Nothing we can do about it. I mean, this is like a third-rate movie playing out on text messages. These people are supposed to be guarding our secrets and seeking truth and justice. They don't even know how to secure their own texts.
Well, it's interesting that they would go back and forth saying that the timing looks awful, but there's even another email from the Department of Justice that would indicate that on how to articulate the exoneration of Hillary Clinton. And so as we look at that, there's also additional evidence that would suggest that DOJ narrowed the scope of the Hillary investigation to make sure that she was exonerated.
Mark Meadows, thanks for joining us. Keep that staff working because we need to get the facts. Appreciate it.
When there is a federal grand jury, in addition to the Nunes Committee investigation into the State Department, people will be forced by subpoena to give testimony. A senior Department of State officials who are currently there or who have left. I think it will be demonstrated that they colluded with Clinton administration representatives and campaign officials and people like Sidney Blumenthal and Cody Shearer, who passed on completely unreliable information, which they hoped would be passed along to the FBI, and in fact it was, and that information was used fraudulently to obtain FISA warrants. This is why, Lou, the only way to get these answers, once the Nunes Committee is done, is to have a federal grand jury force all of these State Department people, CIA, DNI people, FBI, DOJ senior people, under oath in a grand jury. It's the only way we're ever going to get the full story.
And to add another twist, Lou, Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, is a witness. He should be recused from this altogether because he's going to have to testify why he signed a FISA application.
Comey and Strzok and all of those people, including senior Justice Department officials, this was a plot, a brazen plot to exonerate Hillary Clinton in the email server case, to ensure that she became president. And if by chance she lost, part of the plot was to frame Donald Trump with a false crime. And that's why the Steele dossier was used. It was designed to create a false narrative about Trump and his people and to be used ultimately against them if Hillary Clinton lost. This is why this is the single most important scandal of the last 50 years, because senior DOJ and FBI officials engaged in conduct that was designed to corrupt an American presidential election. It wasn't the Russians who corrupted the presidential election. It was the American officials at the Department of Justice and the FBI.
I think we have ample facts revealed to us during this last year and a half that high-ranking people throughout the government, not just the FBI, high-ranking people had a plot to not have Hillary Clinton, indicted so that she could remain the flawed candidate that she was, which in my view was stupidity. And they also had and even this Strzok guy talked about this. They had a backup plan to basically frame Donald Trump. And that's what's been going on. This whole thing, in my view, is just total phony. I mean, how would you feel, someone out there in America land, if somebody was just had a phony scheme about you and went on for months and months and months?
Yeah,
and that's what's going on.